I was getting hit heavy with pregnancy announcements and it triggered me. I can't like that post, and that tore me up because I'm like, this is what I want. This person has got this. I should be so happy for them. It was the strongest feeling of jealousy that has ever hit me.
Today is a special one because I have one of my nearest and dearest, Natalie Roser, on the podcast. We're going to chat all about her modelling career, but also get a little bit more deep and personal with Nat into her recent fertility journey. She will spill some tea on this, so stay tuned for a jam-packed episode with the one and only Natalie Roser. Welcome back to another episode of Self-Dom Beautiful Humans, a safe place to learn and get inspired to live your healthiest and most fulfilling life. I am Dom, your host, and I feel so grateful to be living my passion by getting to interview inspiring and knowledgeable guests. Nat is one of Australia's most successful models, living between Oz and the States. She has over 1.4 million followers on Instagram and has been a big inspiration to me. She invited me on one of my first brand trips to Thailand, and we bonded so much, and I'm forever grateful for the opportunity she's given to me. She is also one of my most entrepreneurial girlfriends with many businesses, including her lingerie brand called Rose and Bear, which has recently got a makeover into bear ones. These are my staple for shoots, like that new G-string. She'll tell you about the brand, but it's my go-to. It's the best.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! It's so nice having a friend on the podcast.
I know, this is going to go for a long time.
I know. I'm like, we're just going to be yapping. Because I feel like I keep having scientists or naturopaths, which is amazing and I love it. But just
I like that too. Thank you for that.
Yeah. We're learning, but just good to have a giggle.
Yeah.
And also good to just have a deep chat together.
It's deep, but it'll be light.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good mix.
We'll always laugh together. So
Yes.
I think people mainly know you as a model. You've been doing it for quite some time.
I know.
She's a veteran.
Yeah, she is.
How did this journey start for you?
Oh, it was back in the day.
She's walked in with a cane.
Back in the day when they used to, I remember my first photo shoot, they shot on film.
No, they didn't.
They did.
You're not that old now.
No, mate. It was on film for Girlfriend magazine and they did Polaroids to test the lighting. I'm not even.
I wish I had one of those. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's cool. But it was, so I was 13 when I first
That's why. That's so
Oh, yeah,
young.
I was also a baby.
Yeah.
I was also a very young 13-year-old, not like today. Like
Yeah.
I was a child.
Yeah. Were you super tall and leggy
I
like now?
was tall. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was already 5'9" when they
At
found
13?
me at 13 years
She'd
old.
be taller than me.
I was a proficient netball player.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I was a beast. I was really skinny though. I was like,
Yeah.
no shape, no hips, no boobs, just
The modelling industry wanted to snap that up.
Yeah, they were
13,
all about it.
Yeah.
Yes, Mum entered me in a modelling competition with Girlfriend magazine, and that just kind of took me on my journey from there. And I signed with my agency, and then I was very adamant about like still continuing school and uni while I modelled, and I was living in Newcastle, so I'd come down for castings sporadically. It was definitely not anything close to full time until I turned 21. And then I graduated uni in Newcastle, and then I moved to Sydney and kind of made it a little bit more serious, I guess, because the work was kind of there and I had that opportunity to move and try something new and scary in the big smoke.
In the big smoke. Yeah. But now when you say that, 21's actually kind of older. Like,
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I still looked about like 16. I hadn't changed very much. But yeah, so I was not necessarily, even though I'd been doing it for so long, and I guess I had been doing, pretty amazing jobs in that period between 13 and 21. I hadn't gone overseas yet, and I hadn't really committed to it, and it wasn't until I was early 20s before it all properly boomed and kicked off.
Yeah. So when it started booming, I want to kind of talk a little bit about body image, because that time of your life, 13, you start, puberty and things start happening. How did you deal with the changes, and how did you find the confidence when it came to being on camera?
Yeah, I think it's That's interesting actually, because I didn't really change that much. I'm a very naturally slender human. I didn't have boobs. So my body shape didn't really change that much. I remember being insecure about not having boobs. Yeah. So just, I guess, like a normal kid, because I was still growing up, not necessarily as in the industry as some others at that age are, and I wasn't living in model houses and I wasn't doing all of that experience, which I think was really good for me. But yeah, I definitely remember, I think everything was just a bit delayed, because when I was 21, 22, I knew that I was like skinny fat. Because I played netball and I was very active, but I had no muscle tone, and I definitely didn't train anything like I do now. And my body just wasn't very strong, but I was still very lean, but I didn't move very well. I was very clumsy, very lanky. I mean, she still is. I'm still clumsy. I was like, you still are. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was the body image thing when I was 15, 16. I copped a little bit of shit from girls at school calling me anorexic. Oh, yeah. But I'd be sitting there eating 2 Nutella wrap sandwiches. I ate.
You still eat so much.
I ate so much. So it didn't. I was more like shocked. I'm like, what? What do you mean? I'm not even that skinny. Like I'm just normal, and I eat more than my brother. Like I don't even understand. But they didn't know me, obviously. Like that's just school and their own insecurities, I imagine. But yeah, no. Apart from that, I sidestepped a lot of that, and then when I started training at like 22, 23. That just really helped me with my confidence anyway. So I kind of naturally allowed myself to enter a space where I was like, I guess subconsciously supporting my own body image well-being.
Yeah. And I think it's a really beautiful way to look at exercise as not a punishment, but as a way to get confident, a way to have more energy and feel strong.
Yeah. I guess I never really looked at it because I always enjoyed my activities when I was a kid, like all my running and my netball and my whatever sports I did, surfing, all that jazz. It was always like a fun thing for me. So the gym was never to get skinny. I was already skinny. It was, I guess, to get stronger. And I think that shifted again once I hit my late 20s and the body changed again, and then it obviously like nutrition came into it, and I started to learn about that because I needed to, because my body was just not responding the way that it used to food and my terrible early 20 diet. But yes, it's like the training is always been there, but I've always tried to do things that I really enjoy rather than doing it like a chore.
Well, so what are some of your favorite shoots you've done? Was it this one?
Pulls a magic magazine out from behind her back. That was a fun one.
You're still on covers. You literally are. Like, how many covers has this woman done?
Oh, I've never counted.
Oh, it'd be a fair few.
Yeah,
So it'd be hard for you to pick your favourite.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've definitely got ones that I remember that were not my favourite, that have scarred me for life.
Do you want to share one?
I was in Israel and I had to shoot in the Dead Sea. Stunning, right? Beautiful.
But isn't that so salty?
Exactly. So salty. And so it looks like snow with water around it. So I'm doing swimwear and I'm lying on the snow, which is the salt, and I'd shaved the night before. I was in so much pain. My legs, my groin, my armpits, because I'm just, everything was touching the salt and everything was just so freshly shaved. And I think we had to get up at like 2 a.m. or something to do hair and makeup and then drive out to the Dead Sea. And it's conflicting because it kind of totally ruined my experience of such a beautiful natural wonder. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to go back there.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was so beautiful and I just didn't enjoy it because I was stinging.
That's awful. I've been there before. I swear you can like feel it in your pusnan.
Yeah, absolutely. It's right up there. It's right up there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to the Dead Sea don't shave.
No.
Like
Leave
3 days.
Leave it
Just,
natural.
be a little bit hairy because I think you'll enjoy it a lot more.
Oh my God. And what about your favorite?
Look, I got to shoot for Guess. That was a
Insane.
bucket list.
You're such a Guess girl though. Like,
I never thought that I would ever be. But you know, when I got my first Guess bag when I was like 12 for Christmas, and it was the kind of thing that I never used it because it was so special. So special. I kept it in the cupboard. And so that it was just always like I grew up loving photography. I studied photography at uni as one of my kind of electives, and I studied the Guess photographers. So I was pretty into the brand, or into some of the photographers that they worked with and the styles that they would kind of, portray for their campaigns and their photo shoots. So to be able to do that and see myself as that girl, as that character, I was like, whoa, this is pretty cool. And I said to my husband after I shot it, I was like, I think I can retire now. Like, I am so stoked. Like, this is just made my whole career.
So good.
It's just because I've had a little crush on the brand and Ellen von Unwerth and all that crew since I was a kid.
Well, I think this leads really nicely to the next question because it's all about advice for aspiring models. You're there telling me you studied the brand, you studied the photographer, you studied the mood board. Like, there's so much more involved than just being a pretty face with modeling.
Yeah.
Like, what advice would you give to young girls?
Yeah, it's interesting. I definitely have a natural interest in the industry.
Well, you would do photography as well.
Yeah, I did photography. And I think because I just grew up literally from 13 seeing all sides of the industry, fashion, and then advertising, creative, styling, all the things. I got a really deep insight into what it was all about, and it kind of just fed my interest in the world of aesthetics.
Yeah.
Pretty things. It's so Taurian of me.
It is. Us Taurus babies.
Yeah, we like pretty things. So I think advice is to, I guess it's like anything, right? Like, if whatever you want to do, you have to have an interest in it. So if you want to be a lawyer, you probably should have some interest in law. I think it's like modeling is more than just looking good. Definitely, like it is it's a business. And I think when you start to look at it like that, it also removes a bit of the emotion behind it, and you can kind of see, or at least start to understand, that when brands are booking you for a job or casting you for a job, they're looking to fill a certain criteria that you might not fill, but it's not because you're not beautiful, or it's not because you're not the right. They might already have a blonde, or they might already have or maybe the other model that they really want to use because she sells really well is 5'8", so they're not going to book me who's 6 foot. Although sometimes they do, and then it looks like I'm a mother and a child. But that's my own insecurity of being a tall girl. But it could be something as simple as that, and it's not that it doesn't take away from who you are and what you do and your abilities. It's just, it's a business. The whole thing is a big churning company as a big picture.
The one thing I always think about is that people like different dogs.
Yes,
and
people do like different dogs.
Businesses like different models, and it doesn't mean that one model's better than the other.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
The Frenchie is not any better than a golden retriever.
Exactly, but my Crumble wasn't right for the job.
Oh, poor Crumble.
Poor Crumb.
Yeah. But
he'll be right for another one.
Yeah, it might be right for Pip and Prim.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Like, people have different preferences, and it's so important that you don't take it on as a lash out towards you and your self-worth. You just weren't right for that job. And also, you can trial. People put their resume into so many businesses when they want to get a job. It's the same as a model. So you might get 10 no's and then your 11th will be a yes.
Yeah.
But if you really want it, you just got to be persistent and keep going with it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you wouldn't stop applying for a regular job because you got no's. You just keep
going.
Keep looking.
Yeah.
Like, you keep hunting. And sometimes it's a personality thing as well. Like, if you don't click with the brand, and that's happened.
Yeah.
Like, I've casted girls before and I'm like, oh, she's so beautiful in pictures, but like, I don't know if I want to spend all day on set with her because we're just not
the
vibing.
energy's not right. Yeah.
But then I'll book someone who who I'm like, wow, we can chat.
Really well.
Yeah. And
it's a huge aspect of it. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's given you longevity. You're still
I hope
booking,
so.
like you're still in your prime now and you're pregnant and like you're just always flourishing. I think a big part of your longevity as well is having a social media following. What are your views on modeling and influencers? Do you think it's important to mesh both?
I think that there's definitely a link between the two, not necessarily influencing, but definitely your social presence. And I don't think to be a successful model, you need to have a social presence, because I think it's kind of the same with acting, right? You don't have to have Instagram to be a successful actor. We can see that with Jennifer Lawrence, for example. She doesn't use it. And it's like, she's fine. And I think it's a really great way to display the side of yourself that you would like clients to see, either show personality or show the type of brands and content that you like to create. Like if you like really high fashion stuff and you're posting really interesting, cool, creative images, or you just, it's I think it's important to kind of use it as a tool, but I don't think you have to use it like the same way necessarily that you and I use it to find success as a model. But then I definitely know that there's been people who have started influencing and then they've been picked up by modeling because their look works and it sells for brands.
I definitely think it creates more of a streamlined process if you're someone struggling to find an agent.
Yeah.
I think it can catapult you because if you have a following, people can see you already sell clothes. People can see you in different lights. It is like an online portfolio.
Absolutely.
I think there are some key models and actresses who can really kill it.
Yeah.
But I personally think if you've got a tool there to use, you may as well make the most of it.
Yeah.
If it's in alignment to your beliefs and your values.
Yeah. Yeah. If it makes you anxious,
Don't do it.
don't do it.
I mean, it probably makes all of us a bit anxious, but we're still doing it.
Yeah.
You know? But you've grown your following over the years. What has helped you grow from that 0 to 1.4?
I think sharing, I just share my life, right? Like,
And it's so natural for you.
yeah,
It becomes natural where you
it
just
does.
take photos.
But I'm very lucky to be offered a lot of amazing experiences to share. I think because I was a model before social media, so by the
Remember,
time
she had a film camera on her first shoot, guys. Don't forget that.
I think that was before Instagram. But yes, so I was 21 when I got Instagram, and I was traveling.
Which is probably a really good age. Like a really healthy age to get Instagram.
Right? I think so, because I also just thought when I first downloaded it, not many people were on it, and I thought it was a photo editing app. So I was taking pictures all around Europe of my embarrassing outfits. I was also not cool I'm not cool now, but I was like definitely not cool at 21. But I was taking pictures of, like the Arc de Triomphe, and I put the little frame around it.
Oh my God,
and
vignetta.
Yes, exactly. We loved it. So that's where I started using it, and then I used it to share my photography as well. So I was posting other people on there, and then I'd share my modeling pictures. But back then it was a very different beast. Like it was a lot easier to grow, and sharing that side of things was much more exciting because people were not anywhere near as exposed to it as they are today. So I think since then the content that has shifted into a lot more real life stuff. And I think that is what people like. People just want to connect. And I'm not as open as some other creators. Like I keep my private life, I guess, like slightly more private to some, but some people still like, how do you share so much of your life? And I'm like, well, because I'm not hiding anything. I'm not ashamed of anything. I don't really have any problems sharing these aspects of my life. I am who I am, and I'm not really apologetic about that. And I think that, having that kind of like sense of bravery to share it with people really lets them in, and that's what people kind of engage with.
And I think as well, people would see you if it was just a photo. I'd be like, this girl's just so beautiful, but people want to know more.
That's nice, Dommy.
But people want to know more.
Always.
Like, people are curious, and I think that's what I've loved about the shift on social media. I find the accounts that are too perfect and curated, they don't get the engagement, because that turns me off. I want to see something
real.
Yeah, and like the word you use, connect, it perfectly explains that. And yeah, I've been recently having a bit of my own like self-doubt and self-things, and when I scroll, I find myself, I can't look at the stuff that's too perfect, because I'm just, not that I'm comparing myself, but I'm just like, it's unrealistic. It's probably really unhealthy for me to be absorbing this right now.
Yeah, if you're in a vulnerable kind of situation.
Exactly, and I think majority of people are.
Well, yeah, who's not? Who's not affected by things that they absorb and they see? Like, we're the product of our surroundings, right? And I think that extends beyond the people. Like, we hear that all the time. You're the product of your 5 closest people.
You are.
But I think it's also your space. And I think being Taurian, we are especially affected by, it's like, if there's clutter or mess, my mental space declines.
Sorry about the house today.
No, you're fine. You're fine. No, it's like, it's just.
I know what you mean.
It makes a difference. Everything can impact the way that you're feeling. And if you don't have a check on yourself, if you're in a place where you are not in control of your feelings and you can't separate yourself from them and see how they're affecting you, then it can be a real downward spiral. So I think it's like, they're the times when you're not feeling your best. That's when you need to really help yourself out by looking at your surroundings until you can find that strength to look inwards.
Well, yeah, it just got me thinking, and you can tell me if you don't want to talk about it, but obviously we're going to dive into your fertility journey, but I'm sure my Instagram's flooded with people saying they're pregnant. And how did that make you feel when maybe, you were seeing that sort of content when you were trying?
It's crazy how the world works. And it's like, I don't know if it's because when you think about something, like you think about a yellow car, and then like everywhere you look, there's yellow cars, but normally
you never
not
see
a single yellow car.
Yeah.
And pregnancy is not necessarily like that. Like, people are getting pregnant all the time. But yeah, I was definitely getting hit heavy with pregnancy announcements, and it triggered me. Not so much at the start. Like, we were trying to conceive for a solid year, and then even before that, I had to prep my body. I had to have my spinal surgery, and then I had to wait 12 months for my spine to fuse. So it was like a long journey of a lot of waiting. And the first couple of months obviously were fine, because I was like, oh yeah, like it'll happen. And you always think that falling pregnant is just, it's the easiest thing in the whole wide world. But when you actually learn about the science behind all the things that have to happen, so it just doesn't happen. It's very frustrating. And it's like, and it's definitely, well, for me, it was very, very easy to get triggered by somebody's exciting news, and then I had to deal with the guilt of not feeling excited for them, and like I'd be going through, and these are people that I know, but I may, like, it's not like, you telling me that you're pregnant. I know it's somebody that has posted it on Instagram, and I can't like that post, and that tore me up, because I'm like, this is such wonderful. This is what I want. This person has got this. I should be so happy for them. And I'm not happy for them, and I'm jealous, and it was the strongest feeling of jealousy that has ever hit me. And at least I knew what it was, and I knew where it was coming from, but I still couldn't like that post. Which led me to not share not announce my pregnancy. I wasn't going to announce it at all.
Is that why? Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just like, I don't
For someone who shares so much of their life, I really respect that decision.
Well, I still did share it because...
Yeah, but subtly.
It was,
It wasn't like...
It wasn't a whole thing. But I also was like, I didn't want to write a whole caption about, to all of those who struggled. Like, I didn't want it to be about... It's a very hard thing to kind of explain, because I was so happy and I'm really looking forward to sharing, but also I was so nervous about sharing it for the people who would be feeling like me, and I know they're out there. I'm like, I just hate to make someone feel like that. I've got so much joy just from like telling all of you guys, in private, and I got to do all of that and tell so many people and see the shocked faces because I hadn't announced it on Instagram until we were 22 weeks. Yeah. Like I was really happy that I waited for as long as I could. But it just came down to like we had a really cute photo and Harley was like, I would like to post that on my Instagram. And I'm like, okay, well, if you're posting it on yours, we'll do a combined post. And
I mean, Nat would keep posting in our WhatsApp group, like, guys, can you tell I'm pregnant in this outfit? And we're like, Nat, you're boobs
so
are
pregnant,
bloody huge, and you can see your belly. Like, we can't hide it anymore.
Yeah, so we had passed the point of hiding. So it had to come out. Yeah, it was going to.
Better out than in. That's what I always.
My gosh, I needed to stop like sucking in poor baby.
Poor baby, yeah. Also, boobs giant.
Yeah.
Like, we couldn't hide
huge.
it. But in terms of your fertility journey, how was your experience with IVF and the route that you took?
Yeah, well, so we like I said, we were trying for a year and it got to about July, August. And I'd started to get really painful periods and I didn't really have that kind of growing up, and I'd been on the pill, I'd had the IUD, I'd also done the rod in my arm at one point. So I'd been on contraception, but I had stopped all of that for about 2 years. So I think when I was still living in LA, I went off all contraception. So that was I knew that I needed to give my body at least 6 months before starting to fall pregnant, which is what's kind of recommended just to help your hormones level out. Some people can take a lot longer than 6 months.
Well, I've had 2 periods in 8 months. Like, I'm really trying to balance, and it's quite interesting because I've had different experts on the podcast, and some will say, you know, your fertility and everything goes back to normal after you do these contraceptive methods, whilst others are like, the pill and this will really impact your fertility. And, you know, there's no yes or no answer.
I think everybody's different.
But it's quite interesting when you're like, you know, you've been on all these contraceptions and then when you're trying to fall pregnant, it's so difficult.
Yeah, but it's also difficult for the body to get back to a baseline.
Absolutely.
It's like, that's a hard thing. When you've had something switched off for...
Yeah, you haven't ovulated.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think the hormones are just, like, once you start learning about them, it's just a whole thing. And you're like, what have I been doing to myself all these years?
But you weren't to know as well.
No, exactly. I guess that's the hope for the younger generation, like now, is that they can all learn from the 30-year-olds who are going through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I went off the contraception. I was off that for like 2 or 3 years. And then, it was July and I started getting painful periods. And every month it had seemed to be getting worse and worse. And it wasn't until July that I realized that I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is really like quite bad. And I went to America to see my girlfriend and we were staying at her house and my period came and I was bedridden. It was only for like 4 hours or something, but it was so excruciating. And there was nothing would help it. And she goes, do you think you've got endometriosis? And I was like, no, I don't know. And I'm lying there in pain while they're out, you know, on the lake having a great old time. And I'm Googling endometriosis symptoms. And I was like, oh, right. How has no one ever...
Because that masks it.
It masks everything. Even though I was off it for 2 years, it took that 2 years for the pain to build up to a point where it made me notice it, and really notice it and be like, there's something wrong.
Well, I think women were taught that being in pain is so normal, right? Exactly.
Like, oh, you got a bit of period pain. Oh, you're a bit bloated. I didn't have the stomach issues that a lot of women experience with it. I had pain when I went to the bathroom around my period, which, again, that's not really spoken about unless you Google endometriosis symptoms. And occasionally I'd have pain when we had sex, but it was only very occasional. But yeah, like just once you see a few of those things in a list, you're like, oh. And I actually texted to another girlfriend the list, and I was like, because she had more of the symptoms than I did, and I was like, just letting you know, you should check this out because I think this is what I'm dealing with. And got home I think, well, actually, while I was still there, I was making appointments to go and see specialists, and it still took like 3 months from getting home and starting to see people that I found a surgeon, and he did this one test, and he basically probed me and pressed on one section of my, I don't know, inside. Yeah. And he's like, does that hurt? And I was like, oh my God, that's the pain. Like, that's it. And he was like, yeah, that's a common test for endometriosis. And I was in for surgery the next week.
So it took 3 months to get a diagnosis.
Well, but even, here's the thing with endo is that even with the specialist saying this is a sign of endometriosis, there is no diagnosis for it until they cut you open. Like, there's no.
And you just had your spine, so like you've just been.
Yeah,
I feel like
it was just like, I'm like, another thing. Are you serious?
Yeah.
And endo, obviously, for those who don't know, can affect fertility. It can impact conception because the lining of your uterus isn't. It's just not optimal. And also, you can have the endometriosis on your ovaries. You can have them on your fallopian tubes. Like, it can lie anywhere in the body. Where it's not meant to, and it can affect function. So I had the surgery, and then turns out I was stage 4, which is like...
And you just had no idea.
No idea
That is
for
just
ages.
so crazy.
Yeah.
But does it make a difference where you catch your endometriosis in terms of managing it?
I don't know.
Because you didn't want a child until now.
No, yeah.
You know?
I mean, I think because I was asymptomatic for the majority, it wasn't a big issue for me. And then they say that falling pregnant can really help it as well, because the progesterone is what calms down the endo. So,
I've heard this about,
So that's why people go back on the pill when they have it, because you have a progesterone pill, and then it does. I don't know if it shrinks it, but it just like pauses it.
And manageable, like the pain and things.
Pain is manageable. Which is just, then you're back on the hormones, you know?
I
know.
Like, oh.
So there are ways apparently to manage it naturally, which I was looking into before my surgery, just to try and help me through those months until I had an answer. But yeah, the thing that I found out that was also just like, are you kidding me? Is that once you have the I can't say that word, the surgery.
I had someone on
laparoscopy.
I had someone talking about
that. Great. It's a good one. It's a great word.
Yeah.
Once you have that, the endo can grow back 6 months. In 6 months, you've got a window that, I mean, it's obviously different person to person, but 6 months. I was like, okay, so I've got 6 months to fall pregnant.
And it's also the stress now you're putting on yourself. I've got 6 months to fall pregnant.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well,
That's
it also
hard.
took me the first 3 months of trying to fall pregnant to even figure out when I ovulated, because I was using an app that had no, like, you didn't track anything. You just put in when you got your period, and that was your tracker. And so it was telling me I would ovulate on day 14, day
Instead
15.
of your temperature?
Yeah. So then I swapped to basal body temperature. I ovulate late. So I was just completely missing my window.
Yeah.
So that was annoying.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, obviously there's sometimes, I guess, when you don't miss the window, but I wasn't optimal for that. And then it was just like one thing after the other. And it's like, you just have to learn this whole new language that nobody teaches you. Because I guess some women are just so lucky, and I don't think I'm sure they know how lucky they are to fall pregnant like that. But it's such a gift, and it's such a miracle.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been
a journey.
It's been a journey. And then you did do the IVF?
Did the IVF because I got, we tried, I think, I was speaking to the IVF doctor in the clinic, and it was about 3 months after my endo surgery, and I was like, look, I'll give it 1 more month, but I feel so like anxious that, I also had a declining egg reserve, which is where the time pressure really came from.
So how many eggs, can I ask, did you have?
So it's a blood test, and I had one of those. I had a blood test before my spinal surgery, or maybe even longer than that. It was a while ago, just to check. I think I was 29. To check my egg reserve. And so you get like a score, and I think it was at let's say it was at 17. I can't remember the numbers.
I think the average at my age is 22.
There you go. Yeah. So at 29, I was sitting pretty normal.
That's normal. Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, that was a good relief for me. And then I had it tested again when we started trying to fall pregnant, and it was down, and it had gone down a lot faster than the slope for years.
But I guess you can only know that by doing the second test.
Exactly.
You know?
So I was like, okay, well, this trending line of down is like, that is not looking good for me. Like, that makes me a little bit nervous. It doesn't necessarily impact your egg quality, which I was really hanging on to. And that really proved to be the case for me personally.
Well, you deserve some good news.
Well, yeah, so we did our IVF. We jumped straight into that because I was like, I don't want to have to wait. Even if I just get the eggs and then we'll keep trying. Like, I want like a bit of a safety net because it's available to me, you know, like that's modern technology. I'm going to use that to my advantage. So we did that and we only got 6 eggs from the retrieval. They start on, it depends. They have a lot of clinics have a lot of different methods for egg retrieval with the amount that they dose you for your injections. And these guys that I went with, they were like quite reasonable. Like, it wasn't, because there's a lot of complications that can come with overdosing or overstimulating. Your ovaries swell up to the size of grapefruits, like both of them at once.
How did you feel?
Surprisingly, I was okay. I think maybe because I was sort of used to
Pain.
bloating. Yeah, like I was like, I think also I'd talked myself into thinking it was so much worse than it was going to be. I also don't have any needle issues, so I was very lucky. I was a little bit hormonal, but I also don't really cop that in day-to-day life. Like, I don't fluctuate. I don't have big hormonal dips. So the actual, like, the up to the egg retrieval was quite fine for me. And then retrieved the eggs, they got 6, which is a relatively low number. So I remember coming out of my surgery and the nurse goes, "Oh, congratulations, you got 6. That's likely to get 1 embryo." And I was like, oh. But they were saying that, like, this is good news because I guess not everybody gets, like, 6 eggs doesn't equal anything really, like, because you don't know how the next stage is going to go. And so it's a real journey, real emotional journey. So I was like, okay, well, 6 to 1, like one embryo. 1 embryo is fine. Like, 1 embryo is better than no embryos. Like, I haven't had any embryos, I don't think, at this point. Like, I think I've fallen pregnant maybe once and it didn't stick in that year that we've been trying. We then went away and they did their little magic trick and they called us and they're like, "Congratulations, you got 5 embryos." So it was like,
wow.
Okay, well, this is just wild because my egg quality is obviously quite healthy, even though my test results were like that it was in the strong decline. Harley's obviously very healthy, and we vibe. We gel
You're
real well.
vibing.
Yeah,
Spermie in the egg.
Yeah, and then they have to watch those 5 eggs, the 5 embryos develop over the course of 5 days, and you get an update to see if any of them drop off. None of ours dropped off. Usually it halves every day or every 2 days or something.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so we were very, very, like, that was such a blessing.
So have you kept those ones? Like, do you now freeze them?
We transferred one. And that didn't,
Isn't that cute?
That didn't work.
They're like sitting in the freezer.
I know, they're sitting in the freezer.
Oh.
Yeah, I pay rent for them.
That's
they're
cute.
expensive.
Ah. It's like having 5 kids already.
I know. Well, no, we lost one. So I fell pregnant and then it didn't progress past the first pregnancy test, which I'm so grateful that I had all of you girls to lean on for that because I was very much of the mind of like, I'm not keeping this like as a secret. So I wanted to tell people in person. So the girls that in my girlfriend group that I'd seen in the space of that, 7 days after or 2 weeks after, it's all blur. When I found out that I was pregnant, I was seeing girls the next day, and I told the girls that I was pregnant, and it was a really weird feeling because my intuition was like, this isn't real, this isn't right. Like there was just something that was like little alarm bells going off for me. And then it was feeling. 2 or 3 days later that we had our next test to test your hormones to see if pregnancy was, progressing, and it hadn't progressed. So that was, if I hadn't told the girls, I don't know how I would have even brought that up. Like, I know I had to bring it up with you and fill you in on what had happened. And like, if I had to do that with everybody, it would have been incredibly hard. So I'm a real big advocate for sharing. If you obviously it depends on the people, on your friendship group, and if you feel like you can share that. But I'm a real big advocate for sharing early pregnancy, because that's when you need your people. Like, you even with this bubble, when it stuck, like, I was feeling like shit. Like, I couldn't think. I was like, I felt so hungover, and I just had to, like, it's nice to be, for your friends who are with you, to kind of like understand why you're vibrating at a slightly lower energy.
Yeah.
And I think it's a nice thing and like, women, I think, need to learn how to help other women through that uncomfortable stage of that unknowing. I think it's the kind of thing that you don't really learn about until your friends start having kids, and you learn about miscarriage, and you learn about how common it is and how many women go through it. And I think if we all keep it, I mean, you hear this all the time, if you all keep it a secret, no one's going to improve. And like, you don't know what to say to people, right? Like, people will say, I don't know what to say to someone, but the more it's talked about, the more you can hear, what the right thing to say is. I guess there's no right thing, but what's going to bring that person the most comfort?
And just being there, I guess. Like, the only similar situation I can reference is mum being sick, and like people being so unsure what to say, what to do. But the silence hurts the most.
Absolutely.
And I always think back to love languages, and you don't necessarily need to use your words, but you could send some Uber Eats, or drop some flowers, or whatever it is. And
just
I think
a thinking of you text. Like, sometimes that can be a bit triggering, I guess, if you're having a moment where you're not thinking about it and someone sends you a thinking of you and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, that happened to me. But I think that it's better to know that you have that support there and available to you than to not receive that text. So I think that, yeah, definitely. Like, I think it's a very similar, like, you're dealing with a grief, right? And so like, when your mum got sick, it was similar, yeah.
And I think what comes to mind is that people don't want to share, obviously, because they're scared. But as you said, you need that support in that moment the most.
Yeah,
and
it's a scary time.
And I think when you were trying to fall pregnant, you were getting thrown that content of people falling pregnant. Yeah. But I also feel like I get thrown a lot of people sharing their miscarriages, a lot of people sharing the story.
Yeah.
And that stuff makes other women who are going through that feel not alone.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's like a really amazing thing that we've seen on social media as well, where people are obviously celebrating when it does happen, but acknowledging when it doesn't. And I think the statistics of miscarriage is so high.
So high.
And no one talks about that.
Like, a lot of women don't know they're even pregnant to know that they've miscarried. Like, that's how high it is. Like, especially in that early stages, before you even get to the point of doing the test, you could be pregnant and not really showing that, like, any symptoms. And then you get your period because baby just it wasn't the right mix, or it didn't. So it happens all the time, all the time.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that, like, you have to be constantly checking to know if you need to be feeling sad. Like, I don't think you have to force yourself to be super aware of if you are pregnant and you're not trying, and then you get your period. Like, it's I think it's just the community around it is definitely getting a lot better. But yeah, it's really brave sharing that stuff, because I was not in a place where that was not something that was going on my social media.
And it's not something that would be running through your mind in that moment to share it.
No,
That's not your first instinct to share that. Yeah. Well, you needed to be held.
I had to get Harley to tell the people that we had told that we were pregnant. I'm like, I can't. So he had to it was really good of him to step up and, like, because we told, like, his grandmother and, like, yeah, like we told people. Also, people knew we were trying because they knew we were doing IVF, and because I wasn't keeping that a secret either. Like, I was pretty open about that to my close circle. So people also knew, like, what our transfer date was. So they were kind of playing along at home, you know. So we obviously, I had to let them know that it hadn't progressed after telling them that it had. And so, yeah, Harley was really good with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When how are you going now that you're how many weeks are you now?
25.
Yeah.
Crazy. So much movement. Makes me nervous for the next couple of months. I'm like, oh my goodness, this child is going to be kicking me to Timbuktu.
Yeah.
But yes, so good. And it was interesting with this pregnancy because I'd had that miscarriage, even though it was very quick, like baby didn't stick for very long. I found myself very nervous, very anxious, quite like constantly checking my underwear for bleeding, like all the like these little things. And I know that's common now because I've seen on social media other women do the same thing. And it's interesting to see how your mind deals with such good positive news after you've had loss. And I really wanted to let myself fully enjoy it and be really happy. But that was hard because I was like, I'm so scared that I'm going to feel all these happies and then I'm going to crash.
Yeah.
Like the more happy you feel, the bigger the fall.
The bigger the fall.
Yeah. So when we found out that when we did the like 12-week tests, I did all the blood tests that I could do to make sure that baby was healthy, and they all came back positive. Like that phone call, that relief from my midwife was like, it still gets me. Still like, it's like, oh my gosh. And then finding out we know the gender, finding out the gender, that was really grounding as well. Like that really helped make it real. I didn't buy anything for the baby until 16 weeks. I didn't, like I was, yeah, it's so even though I had that bit of relief once I hit that 12-week mark, which is when people say that you can tell. Oh my, like how silly is that sentence?
Silly,
you can tell your friends and family now.
So silly.
But it's because like it reaches this certain level of development that the chances diminish, but the chances of miscarriage are the whole way through pregnancy.
Yeah.
Like even like at birth, like there's no guarantee the whole way through.
Yeah.
And like that's something that have had conversations with my midwife about, because it kind of like there's no like happy place. Like, you know, she had the similar thing when she was pregnant. So she was telling me that like, you know, you get to 12 weeks and you're like, oh, phew. And then you get to, you know, like 24 weeks, which is like viability. And then you're like, oh, okay, phew. It's like, there's another, like it keeps going. So if you let it control you, the anxiety, it can really take hold and it can just ruin your whole pregnancy. So I have been managing that, working on that, and like really sitting in the happy.
Yeah.
And it's
you deserve to be happy, Natty.
Thanks, girl. Thanks.
How have you managed that stress? Like, what are the tools?
What are the tools?
Well, obviously,
talking.
yeah, I was going to say talking about it's huge.
Yeah, not burying any of it.
And I mean, Harley is so incredible.
I know. I'm very lucky that I have a
really
partner who
calming,
listens.
beautiful energy.
Yeah, he probes to like, you know, if I partially open up, like it's nice to have people there that kind of like what you were just saying a thought, like what, let's like expand on this so we can understand what's actually going on in your brain. And I think that once you kind of talk about it and voice it, the anxieties, they settle. They might pop back up, but they do settle. And I think just understanding why I'm feeling that way, like really looking at my feelings as like, I'm like, okay, well, because I do a lot of scenarios in my head. I'm like, what? So if touch wood, this doesn't happen, what would that mean for me? I'm like, okay, well that I would go through this and I'd go through that. Like I'm such a practical person. I'm like, I go through my my steps of what would be next. I'm like, okay, well then I can do that. I've done that before. Like I'll get through it. So it's a weird thing to think about, like to plan for the negative, but I think planning for the negative, like then I'm like, but this probably won't happen.
Yeah.
But I think having, you know, a calmness around the negative
that
kind
you'll
of
be
helps
okay.
me. Yeah, exactly.
It's like reassurance that no matter what, that you'll be fine.
Yeah, and I run through it in my head, and I'm like, yeah, you'll survive.
Yeah. Well, amongst everything, you've got another baby.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Bare ones.
Do you know they say that when you're pregnant, because you get double the blood. So there's double the blood goes to your brain. And so women have this like sense of power.
Wow.
And so they like decide second trimester, oh my gosh, let's start a new business.
Yeah.
Let's do a degree. And in my case, let's rebrand my business.
I know. I was like, is she really doing this right now?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, talk to me about it. First of all, for any of the listeners who don't know, can you explain what Bare Ones is?
Yeah, so it's a lingerie brand that I started 5 years ago.
We tried your samples on in Thailand, do you remember?
Oh my gosh, it was such.
Because that was like, Nat was
my
truly
first
the
ones.
first brand who did different nudes for different
Skin
tones. You're literally the first.
Well, yeah, it was because I couldn't find anything, and I'm Caucasian AF. Like I'm so white,
And you still couldn't find
and
it.
I still couldn't find.
Imagine
something.
on me.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if I'm having this problem, and I'm like a blondie British Welsh background, like so there's women that are struggling here because you can always like underwears. We know because we have to wear things for work that are invisible or as invisible as possible so that the clothes shine or the swimwear shines or whatever. So all of the nudes had like big branding, or they weren't comfortable for all day, or they like rolled, or that it was just there was a big problem there. I was getting big flashing. This is
Because
bad.
of her business degree, she knew problem equals business.
Problem equals business. Problem equals more problem for
Yeah.
me. But yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have. But yeah, so I started working on that and building that out. It took 3 years to build, and then launched that 5 years ago. And it kind of got to a point where it was called Rose and Bear, and it was doing really wonderful things with it's just me and my mum. Which I know that you and your mum package up your journals together. So I'm so
Whenever I
proud
get an
of you.
order, I'm like, oh, Nat's mum would have done this. Like, I wrapped it up.
So yeah, we like every Shopify ding is like still so satisfying. But yeah, no, it kind of was at this point after 5 years where I'm like, okay, I've got a bit of money in the bank. Sales are going well. I haven't really pushed any kind of advertising on this. Like this is just natural growth, right? And I really want to give this business the injection that it needs, but I didn't know what direction that injection needed to come from. Like I am kind of maxed out at this point with my knowledge and my time.
I was going to say your time.
But I think that I'm like, I need to do something. I really need to, like, this product deserves, more of my energy, and it deserves my support. And so I need to figure out the best option. So I decided to go and do a course so that I'm learning how to run my own Facebook ads. And that's been really insightful.
Have you done the course?
I'm working through it. Yeah.
You have to send it to me.
I know, I will.
Because I'm similar where I'm like, everyone's using these meta ads, and I'm like, what is meta?
Yeah, so they break it down, and it's been really, really good
Amazing,
for me.
yeah.
Because I also just feel slightly less hopeless, which is nice to have a
feel
bit
so
of direction.
hopeless.
It's hard, right?
But Tom's like he'll do the course,
Yeah,
and I'll remain hopeless.
No, you won't. You
No, I'll
won't.
do
You
it,
can
I'll
do it. It's not that hard.
It's not hard.
No. You've done harder things in your life, Dom.
This is what shits me. I've done a business degree.
Yeah, I know.
I was on the bloody dean's list. I don't know how to do anything.
No,
What
no.
did I learn?
I know, but,
I don't
but
know.
here's the thing: you do like it all changes within like Meta can change shit in 5 days. Like you learn it, and then the next time you log on, it's like, whoa, everything's in a different spot. But once you kind of understand the ins and outs, the basics, I think you'll be fine. We'll sort you out.
Okay, thank you.
But so I decided to do that, and then to couple with that, with me learning how to do shit, I decided that it needs a new direction, because I was looking at the business plan and I was like, look, where I want to expand, where I want to take this, I want to be a household name. I want to potentially move into men's. I want to kind of remove the femininity of Rose and Bear with the word rose and make it a little bit more gender inclusive, or just less, like, just to bring it down to like a neutral playing ground.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, and it's a bit shorter, a bit more succinct, and it's a bit easier to say. So
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's definitely gone a bit cooler.
It's a bit cooler, huh?
Yeah. Like even your new shoot and stuff.
Yeah, thanks.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I tried
Because you're such a feminine girl.
Exactly.
So Rose and Bear, I completely understand. But now that you've said it like that, I'm like, oh.
But we're basics. There's no feminine. Like it's problem solving. It's not a style. Like I needed it to be.
And to be honest, most of
stronger.
us wear underwear, not to wear like fancy ass
I know.
shit.
I mean, you can get your fancy ass shit,
Yeah.
but that's not what you're pulling out. You're like having to dig around that to find something comfortable most of the time.
I agree.
It's like that's not the stuff that you want to wear for.
But I feel sexy in my little thong.
That's cute.
Tom always loves that.
I have a lot of boyfriends who thank me because they think it's their favorite.
Yeah, they're really nice. There's nothing-
Harley's a fan. Harley's a
Well,
fan.
he better be.
Yeah, I know. I don't think he's just saying it. He thinks it's really soft. He's like, you should do an ad saying how soft your Bare One's fabric is because it feels nice to touch. I'm like, babe, that's a bit creepy. I can't run an ad. But here we go. I've just said it on a podcast. So you heard it here first. But that will not be going on my Meta ads because I'm like, it's weird.
We want to attract the masses.
Not the creepy men.
Not the creepy men.
Yeah.
They got
Creepy
money.
husbands.
They got money.
Yeah.
They got the
It's
money.
True that.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love this new direction. And it
Yeah.
makes sense. And you know what I love about Nat is that, as I said in the intro, she's so entrepreneurial, but she's got these certain goals and objectives of the business. And I think a lot of people go into business and they're just kind of wish-washy, but you've got a business plan. Like you've got these things that you want to tick off. And yeah, for 5 years, you've been working with kind of the same system, but now you're like, okay, let's step it up a notch.
Yeah.
And I think it's so inspiring, especially as someone new in business.
That's nice.
It's really inspiring because I'm
you.
like just doing it on a whim, like, oh, maybe this works.
But you have to do that too. You have to
At the
test.
start, for
Yeah.
sure.
And so I think that's what the 5 years of Rose and Bear was. It was testing and like making sure, I'm like, do I have a good product? Are people going to like this as much as I like this? Yes, I've had women come back time and time again to buy more bras in different colors or like their size changes and then the G-strings are just like,
Yeah, they're the best.
I can't keep up with production trying to keep them in stock, but that's another problem.
But I think that's a good problem. And also repeat customers is the biggest testament to a business.
I think so, yeah.
Because it means that they love it and they're coming back, and then that's positive word of mouth.
Yeah, and we do we all wear them like priority. They're the top of the list of what we pull out of the underwear drawer, and like it's that's nice. So like you the more you wear something as well, like you feel like you're really getting your value for money. Like they're not priced expensively, but they're
But they really last.
they last.
Like
fine.
I've had my originals for ages. The colours only
probably-
change because I've
probably
put
would
them
have
in the
been about-
washer about 1 billion times.
Probably been about 4 years.
But when you
Tommy.
get a fresh one, oh,
I know they're nice.
when
fresh.
you get a fresh one, it's the best
Ooh.
feeling. Fresh undies. Ooh.
How's this for a bit of trivia? You're meant to buy fresh undies for your everyday wearing ones every 6 months. For hygiene reasons, obviously. Because
Well, you need to make sure yours get holes because I don't ever change undies unless they get holes, and they never have a hole in
you
them.
can get a subscription. I offer a
Oh,
subscription.
really?
Yeah, so we can you won't even have to think
Every
about
6
it.
months you get new pairs.
Yeah, well, we do also 3 months. I don't know if people, again, get excited about fresh undies.
I know, it's nice. That's smart.
Yeah, you can just come. We'll do it. You don't have to do anything. We
Do you
got
have
you.
period undies?
Girl, yes. As of literally in 3 weeks. But I did them a little bit differently because I've done a lace on the back.
So you feel cute still.
You feel cute. So they're a little bit I know you don't necessarily want to feel sexy when you're in your period, but if you do, these are the ones for you. You know,
Yes.
it's not like a super gnarly absorption pad. Like it's kind of that nice in between. Where it's good for, it's also good.
Like day 3, day 4.
Day 3, day 4, not day 1, day 2.
But I like-
safety day 1, day 2 with tampon for sure. But yeah,
Day 3, day 4 though is perfect because, I mean, TMI, but I'm so lazy to wear something on those
know,
days.
'cause you're like,
because it's
what's
like,
the
oh,
point?
it might come out
Yeah.
a bit.
it'll be fine.
It'll be
It'll be fine. Exactly.
Till it's not fine and I'm in a plie at Pilates.
Oh, don't not to Pilates, honey, girl. Yes.
Oh my
and
God,
also good
that's
for postpartum, which I'm really excited about. I sorted myself out.
You've sorted your, see, that's the thing as well. Like, as your needs change, so do the business change.
Yeah.
Like your audience grow with you, which is so beautiful. Like, your audience would be seeing you grow and they trust you. Like, you've been on this journey sharing your life for so long. It's super exciting, Natty. You have a lot going on at all times.
I do, don't I? And my drama is slowing down doing this.
100%. Well, I think that really is a nice spot to end with, because the last question is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh my gosh, it is to slow down and to not have to be, going at 1,000 miles an hour to find success. Like, I think there's like a real beauty in stillness, and like, I'm not even that good at it. Like, I'm really terrible at finding stillness and like meditating, and like, I know I should do it more. Even writing in my journal, I'm so bad at it, but I know that I am, and I know that.
But don't you feel good when you write in it?
Yes, I do, and I'm like, why does that not hold me? You know, like, why is that not enough?
And with a husband who's a meditation teacher.
I know. But I'm like, you know what? It'll happen in its own time. If I try to force it, I know myself, forcing doesn't equal success. I need to kind of come to this when I'm ready. Like, it was, but the moments that I do find where I'm doing less and I'm staying calm and I'm having those the me time where I'm not thinking about work, or I'm just doing things that I enjoy to make me happy. Like, I cherish those.
Yeah.
Because they are few and far between, and they are very nice.
And I think you're pretty good at this, because we've spoken about it before, where when you go on holidays with Harley, as people on social media, it's hard not to share our life, but you guys will commit to a little bit of time to the photos, and then you put your phone away.
Oh my gosh, it's
and
so
like
good.
commit to that time without the phone.
You did that with your little film camera, when you went away.
And we just booked a Bali trip, and I'm so excited. I'm not going to take any jobs.
Yeah.
Like, we're just properly going to relax. Because I think in our industry, it's really hard to slow down, because if you feel like you're not posting every day, sharing everything, doing something, then you'll get left behind.
Yeah, like, you're undoing all your hard work.
But what's more important, and especially with your whole journey, it's like your health is really your wealth. It's so cliche, but unless you're slowing down, your body's not going to be where you want it to be, and in a rested, relaxed state.
That's what we want.
That's
we
what we
want
want.
rested and relaxed.
And we want feminine energy.
We do.
That's feminine to me.
Really, it is, yeah.
Like, you know,
Try to step out of my masculine.
us Taurians.
Yeah, I know.
We're
It's
very
hard.
masculine.
It's hard for us.
Natty, that was so beautiful.
Dummy.
I love you so much.
you.
I'm so
Thanks
proud
for
of you. Like,
chatting.
truly, truly so proud of you. And for being vulnerable as well and sharing that. I'm sure so many women are going to be able to relate to you. And yeah, if you don't, make sure you follow Nat. It's Natalie_Roser. If you guys want to get your hands on Bare Ones, Nat has given us a discount. Use self-dom at checkout and you'll get 20% off. And yeah, with that, I'll see you on the next episode.